All right, hey, welcome everybody to another episode of the Cashflow Alexio Show. Today I have a really cool guest. His name is Shanecurry. He is a designer, does a lot of architectural work, and is a really great resource if you're looking for anybody to help you with just, I guess, thinking through a project and what's possible. If you're trying to build ADUs, complete communities, even larger scale projects, he really knows all the codes in San Diego like the back of his hand, and I'm sure he could help you in other municipalities as well. But without further ado, I want to introduce Shanecurry to the podcast. Welcome to the podcast, Shane.
Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming in. So tell me a little bit about what you do. I mean, it sounds like you're really into architecture and design.
Yeah, so good question. I've been dabbling in a number of things the last couple of years, but where I really found my niche was doing ADU developments here in San Diego. Mm-hmm. So in some jurisdictions, you can't really max out lots with ADUs, but in the city of San Diego, they've just given developers free range, especially with these ADUs, right? So
why do you think that is?
Because we need housing. Yeah, we need affordable housing, but when you do provide affordable ADUs, they're not very affordable. Mm-hmm. It's so weird because, I mean, you're renting a two-bedroom affordable unit in San Diego for $3,000 a month.
Yeah,
it's wild. But I found my niche in designing these ADU developments for developers and a lot of these newer developers, because what these ADU regulations did was have mom and pop become developers, right? Become landlords, because they can plop an ADU, a duplex of ADUs in their backyard.
In their backyard, yeah. Or even a duplex or a triplex. All of a sudden now they have a 5 or an 8 unit, depending on how big they went with ADU build out.
Right. And so, and just trying to become an investor and developer. So I'm currently building a little 2-bedroom, 1-bath in my backyard, and so I'm owner building that thing. And I'm one thing is to draw it on paper. The other thing is to actually build it, right? Because I'm just learning stuff left and right, and it's pretty amazing. So, building my own project is just going to make me a better designer in the long term. And,
I'm sure. You know what I found, because I'm in the process of building some ADUs myself too, and there's a disconnect between what the city approves and what actually gets passed in the field.
Right.
Like, for example, I've got some plans right now with the city that per Title 24 are required all electric.
Yeah.
But we're in the field, and the builder and the inspector are on board for installing gas.
Yeah.
So I think we're still in that in-between period where they're transitioning over to full electric, but that's just one example. Like, my plans show like electric water heaters and everything, but we're getting through every stage of the project with gas. So,
and that depends on your inspector. I think your builder just has a really good relationship with the inspector.
Okay.
I've heard other stories where the inspector is very stringent. Right.
I've had those experiences too. Yeah.
And so it really just depends on who you get and that rapport with the inspector.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, if it's going from all electric, hybrid electric heat pump water heater to a gas, it's not that big of a deal, right? You are going to have to run gas over to the area, but it's really not that big of a deal. And Title 24, it's probably not going to change. If they were to rerun the Title 24 calcs, it's not going to change much. It may change the installation value maybe, but not much. So it's not that big of a deal. It's good that you have that good of a relationship with the inspector.
Yeah, well, I was calling it out, and I was making a big deal out of it, and everybody's saying, no, dude, just chill out. This is going to be fine, and you probably want gas for your water or for your dryers anyway. So, everybody knows electric dryers don't work quite as well as the gas dryers. Heat and whatnot just works a little bit better with gas, but the rationale, I guess, is that we're trying to get more sustainable, renewable, and move away from gas. Right. And all new developments require solar and things like that for detached structures. So. Right,
and so that brings up another good point. Is the inspector? They know the city of San Diego or whatever jurisdiction you're in, and they know how long and how lengthy the process it can be to do a construction change. Right. So it's. Some inspectors care, some inspectors don't. So it's good that you have that good relationship with him, and he's just looking, turning a blind eye.
Well, I do appreciate the inspectors who will make that call in the field. I recently dealt with one inspector who, it was an MEP, it was an R2, deal. So it was a little bit more intense than a residential R3.
Yeah.
But that inspector, oh my gosh, it's like he was looking for excuses to come back Like
Right.
he came back like 10 times, and he'd give us a conclusive list every time, and we'd take care of everything on the list. And then he'd come back and even sometimes change. He wanted us to revert things back to the way they were prior to him giving us the list. And I was like, you're walking a tightrope between yelling at the guy and trying to get your project to the next stage, and you can't get there without him signing off. So, that was a very frustrating process, but it's just a testament to that it really depends on the inspector that you're working with on that particular project and the, I guess, code R2 or R3 that you're working under.
Right, and there's so much to be learned from that. And I'm sure you would, I'm not going to say never, but you don't want to tackle another R2 project in a long time.
Oh, no. Here's my theory, or my thesis right now is I love building more ADUs. I think lots of more housing is what San Diego needs, and then maxing out the back of your lot is also going to make the most business sense. It's going to make your numbers pencil better.
All right.
However, when you go beyond 2 joined units, that's when you get pushed into the R2, and it requires MEP, you have your California building code, and you have like every single different inspector versus one inspector who kind of holds all the cards.
Right.
And pushes you along. You have 4 different departments, or 3 departments, whatever it is: mechanical, plumbing, electrical, framing, like building. So if you are going to build more than 2 adjoined units, I think that you're not going to just add that 1 extra unit is not worth it.
No.
You got to go like 3 or more, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that's where it maybe starts to make sense to deal with that extra brain damage of that whole process. Yeah,
100%. And like you said, you get those different inspectors for each discipline, right? And they're specialized in their discipline, so they know their code like the back of their hand.
Right.
So they're calling stuff out left and right, versus the R3 projects, which is the duplex or less, the single family or duplex. Then you get the combination inspector, and he has a broad scope on all of those regulations. It's just a lot more simple to go R3, and that's what I like to specialize in, because you can still max out a lot and have a literally 3-inch gap in between these units, right?
Totally,
and do a townhome idea, and it counts as an R3 project. And permitting is going to take you 4 months, maybe 6 months at most, and it's just a night and day difference, in developing.
Totally. You're not an architect, you're a designer.
Right.
Tell me what sets you apart from architects and other designers, and what makes you super valuable to landlords?
Good question. So let's tackle that first. So architect and designer. Architect is licensed. Okay. They have a lot of liability. They're liable for your project for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. My ex-boss told me the number one thing that gets architects sued is water damage.
Wow.
So if they have a roof deck, gotta be careful with those. If you have a roof that leaks, that's the number one reason that they get sued, right? Architects probably not getting sued by a single family. Maybe in La Jolla they're getting sued from a bigger project, but these bigger projects, the multifamily, that's the number one reason that they're getting sued nowadays.
Really, it's water damage. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Which
Water
happens
leaks.
to be a bigger problem now in SoCal with our interesting weather we've been receiving the last 2 years. Lots of rainfall.
Right. And so architect is licensed. They have to take 7 tests, I believe, to get licensed by the state of California. I thought about going that route. I actually have all my hours to go and take the test. And I can still go that route, but I don't know if I really want to technically be known as an architect. And so I want to be kind of known as an architectural designer / developer / entrepreneur / just doing good work, And there's this stigma that a lot of people have of architects, and what I do as well, and it's just they're like very pretentious. Not all of them, but a lot of architects are like very pretentious. And from my understanding and what I've heard is that, if you're licensed, it's either their way or the highway, And I want to be someone that just does good work. I'm more than capable of designing ADUs, 8-unit ADUs, even these multifamily buildings. More than capable, because I know all of the regulations. Because I worked under an architect for 4 years, 4.5 years. And so I learned all those regulations. But the main difference between an architect and a designer is the architect is licensed and the designer is not. Okay? So the designer doesn't have any liability at that point.
Are you able to put your name on a project without an architect overseeing you?
Yes, good question. So the architect can stamp his drawings because he has a stamp. He has a wet stamp. The designer doesn't have any stamp. So technically, the designer, I'm not going to say can't, because they can, but technically the designer isn't supposed to be designing bigger buildings like these, okay? Or R2 style buildings.
Okay.
That being said, once you get the engineer involved, which the licensed architect gets the engineer involved, the licensed engineer can stamp the designer's plan set.
Okay.
And the city will
you can achieve the same goal by engaging an engineer, which would be engaged anyway.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly right.
Do they charge more on your projects because that they're taking on liability because they're utilizing their stamp versus an architect?
No.
No, it's the same liability.
Yeah.
Way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same liability because they're designing the structure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now they may charge, if you get into those bigger projects, they might charge $1,000, $2,000 to stamp your plans, just to give that stamp, right? But it's California,
Right.
Like, yes, you need a license to practice real estate, being a doctor, being an architect, but at one point it's like you got to give the freedom to these homeowners, and that's what not every homeowner can afford an architect, because an architect is probably going to cost you four times my price.
Right.
So if you can,
why do they charge so much more?
Because they're licensed.
Okay.
And don't get me wrong, it's a lot of work to get
So
licensed.
I always compare this to probably like a CPA versus a tax preparer.
Right.
Because they can both file your taxes. One of them is licensed. The other person has another license. It's just a much different level.
Right.
And they are able to do it much cheaper.
Right.
It sounds to me like it's kind of a similar relationship to that. What do you think, if someone had the opportunity to work with another designer, another architect, what makes you stand out?
I really care about providing a good quality product. I'm going to pick up the phone when you call me, and I really care about San Diego. So being born and raised in San Diego, I like to think of, I like to put myself in every space that I design. So I have a pretty high quality standard, which I implement into all my designs. And
you also mean that virtually, because I've seen virtual 3D models of you in your designs.
Yeah.
Your graphic designs.
Yeah, it's funny, huh? Yeah, so long story short, I got myself 3D scanned out in Miramar, and I can actually put myself into the renderings.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's so funny. He sent me a plan set with graphics, and there was a random, obviously, NPC type person in there, and then there's Shane there in the background of the kitchen, just kind of laughing at this person. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. I've only actually done that in 2 renderings.
Oh.
Yeah, so I did that rendering in Point Loma, and then
I think it's an awesome little kind of
stamp
signature, on your work.
Yeah, it's funny.
A little subtle input.
Yeah, no, it's fun. But yeah, really the thing that stands out from the designer and the architect is the license and the unlicensed. Now I will say, architects, they go through a lot of schooling, they take a lot of tests, right? The designer, they don't have an official title or official license, but it really depends, because I will say a lot of these architects do great work. Yes, they charge for it, and a lot of these designers and draftsmen, they could
because they're not licensed and not regulated, they could just not know what they're doing.
Yeah, they could not know what they're doing.
But those who maybe were underneath an architect for 4 years like you got the same experience that, at this point they're functioning like an architect would, or very close to it.
Exactly right. And so it just takes pride in your work and your experience. So I think your experience goes a long way.
I think that's that's true. That holds true for any field.
Yeah.
When you have pride in your work, and you're passionate about it, and you have the experience to oversee some high-level goals, that's going to be worth way more than a degree that says hypothetically how things should work. When you have actual experience, real experience in the field, and you care about it, that means that you're learning every single opportunity. You're not just trying to check the box and go home and wake up pissed off you got to go to work again the next day. You're not going to be learning more when you're doing that. But if you're passionate about what you're doing, and you're applying yourself and you're learning at every single project, there's some new hurdle that you overcome. That experience is going to make you more qualified, in my opinion, than someone with a license that doesn't have that. Yeah,
exactly right.
And that's one of the mottos of the Cash Flow Alexio show. Is that we talk about how can people get ahead in life, young entrepreneurs watching this, how can people get financially free, how can people monitor their health and and just pay attention to all these things. But it really comes down to every opportunity to encounter someone like you, try to, network with them and learn some nuggets of information that will then make you more effective in your pursuits.
Yeah.
So like today, I've already picked up some things on how building code works, how school fees and things of that nature, and what the difference between an architect and a designer are.
Yeah.
All these are opportunities to learn and also build closer relationships with other people in the industry.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So, and just like back to the entrepreneur thing, it just takes action too.
Right.
And mindset is huge, dude.
Yeah.
It's like you can be pissed off, or you can look at everything like an opportunity.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Like I just got all my stuff jacked 2 minutes ago. Broke into my car, took all my coins, and the most annoying thing is they took my checkbooks and my keys to properties and laundry lock boxes and things like that. So I've got to get all those drilled out and replaced. It's going to cost me a couple $1,000s. They're not going to find my laundry machines.
Yeah.
They're also not going to use my checkbooks, but I got to go anyway just in case and change all those account numbers. It's a friggin' financial nightmare. But I also look at it as an opportunity because I've had those accounts open for a long time. I've used those account numbers on many transfers, and it's going to be a nice reset. Just clean slate. Everything's brand new. Nothing's out there. And it's just another excuse to just tighten up my financials. I didn't need all those checkbooks. I only am really using 2 accounts to write checks.
Yep.
I had maybe 5 accounts with checkbooks, so it was just a little excessive. Now it's just all cleaned up, buttoned up. Yeah. And you can look at it as that opportunity, or you can look at it as, another setback, man. This thing is just why can't I catch a break? Instead of saying, it's the universe helping me make that move that I've been putting off, cleaning up my financials.
Well said,
and if you
Dave.
see anything like, you encounter any experience like that, there's always a way to spin it and find the silver lining.
Yeah, and that's the thing with building this ADU that I'm down doing in Chula Vista. It's like there's already been some setbacks, but it's just good learning experiences, and I'm full sending it. That's just what you got to do. You just got to full send it.
You're there every day. You're showing up to the project. You're owner building it. You could have easily hired someone. It probably would have cost more, but it would have allowed you to focus on your own stuff. But in this case, you're like, I know that being involved in this project is going to make me more effective and a better advisor for people who are looking to do similar stuff with their own home in their own backyard, or for bigger projects, just understanding how to interact with inspectors. Like, you are in the trenches with them. You are literally digging the trenches with your guys.
And it got me thinking too. It's like just doing this owner builder thing. I'm like, I was thinking about it. I'm like, maybe in the future, maybe in the long or short or long future, I might maybe start providing the build service as well. So, maybe become a design build. Who knows? It's just, or
project manager. I mean, like, there's so many, every single skill you add to your repertoire is just going to make you more effective and more capable of charging more money for what you do.
All right.
So for young entrepreneurs watching this, that's what it's all about. Whatever field you're in, it's just about adding more skills to your toolbox and being more involved with more things, building your network, understanding how things work really in real life. Like what are the inspectors actually calling out? Where can you actually tweak these? Where can you push the envelope so that you can increase profits? And being able to relay that to people, it's just, that's how you become just deadly in any field that you're trying to become a master in.
Well said.
So I want to, we've got maybe a couple minutes left here. Let's see. Let's talk about an example of one of the design elements what's one of the favorite design elements that you've ever implemented in one of your design projects, an ADU, or maybe it was just a regular build out. What's something you're most proud of your work? Easy
one. So there's a number of items that I check off the box when I propose any type of design, and a couple of those that I take into immediate account, and when I'm looking at properties, is access. Okay. We want privacy, and we want some private outdoor area. Okay. Those are huge. Like the roof deck you're doing in San Diego State, that place is going to be killer.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to freaking love it.
And the roof deck doesn't count as square footage. So it's like additional living space that's like indoor, outdoor, but it makes it feel bigger. And so thinking of things like that. And all of the units in your design, they have private exterior outdoor space. We live in San Diego. That's a must, and so when these ADUs are being designed and built, not mine, of course, but just by other design firms, and it's just like a stucco box
that, you know, is very simple to do. And I understand, you know, it's very costly to do these things, but you just have to give a little more, provide some nice outdoor air, nice outdoor open space, and just make it a nice, you know, not so squished, you know, like I've seen some of these living rooms that are just like a 10 by 12.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, you know, it's like, that's tough to live in.
Yeah.
You know?
It's not really that much of a community space.
Right.
Try to think about, actually put yourself in the shoes of people who might want to live there. And I think that's what's different about some architects is that they just, living room, bathroom, 2 bedrooms. Is this good? You like it?
Yeah.
Versus like actually thinking like, well, what if we tweak this way?
Yeah.
We push the bathroom here, we move the closet over here so that we can actually get an extra 3 feet in this living room. It's going to make a world of difference. And then on top of that, we remove this wall, we put an island that's going to make it feel a little bit bigger. People can maybe use the island as the dining room table, and we still have a functional space versus this maze of hallways that we see in some of our plans.
Yeah, and really understanding the end user. You know, once you understand that end user, you can design around them because you can put yourself in their shoes.
Right.
So that's really helpful to know. You know, the kids in San Diego State, they're gonna freaking love that roof deck.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Like, I feel bad for your neighbors, but
They're all students too.
yeah. Oh, there you go. So
They'll be throwing balls back and forth to the neighbor.
exactly right. And so that place is going to be kick-ass. You know. I mean, I haven't seen another one of those.
Yeah, we'll have to have you come back out one of these days. We're getting closer to the finish line. We're about to do stucco and stuff. So
yeah,
it's looking really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. But you know, back to your question is just just putting yourself in the end user's shoes and providing, you know, that good product. Did that answer the question?
Totally. Yeah. Appreciate it, man. Well, let's see. What is the biggest challenge? What's the biggest challenge that you're trying to overcome for yourself and your business right now that maybe one of our listeners can help you out with, or maybe I can help you out with?
Manpower.
Manpower. What does that mean? Why so?
That means that means that first off, it takes a lot of hours to do these architecture jobs. Okay. Right. It takes a lot of skill. Right. Mm-hmm. Not that I'm skilled, but it takes a lot of understanding the code. Right. Okay. And I have 5 years of understanding the municipal code and the building code and the residential code. And so I learned very quickly. On my weekends, I studied, you know, the code. And not thankfully, but it was right during COVID, so we had a lot of downtime. Right. So I was literally head down into this building code. Right. And I learned so much. But it's manpower, and it takes a lot of time to train someone up. And it takes a lot of hours to do these architecture jobs. And so I'm an entrepreneur, right? I'm a business owner, and I do architecture. And I need to start working on the business versus in the business. So
finding people that are like-minded like you have similar experience that you can trust to do the job right, not make errors.
And so what I need to start doing is start training some people, whether that be overseas or whether that be local. I would love to have someone local in my office that we can just spitball, because sometimes it requires you to be on site, you know, and the person overseas can't be on site, obviously. And so that's coming as soon as I build my ADU. Is I'm going to start bringing in some of that cash flow, that positive income, and then I'll be able to utilize that cash flow that I'm bringing in from the ADU to pay someone else. Right.
I think that's a great way. Scaling is like one of the hardest things, and people like you and me, we understand what we're doing really well. And what I found was one of the biggest challenges the last couple of years was training new employees and actually doing that properly. I mean, I noticed a lot of encouragement wasn't necessarily doing it. I had to sometimes, be that bad guy, say, hey, call them out when they're not doing their job. And I'm still working on that because that's just not my personality. But in general, as I've been doing it more effectively now with contractors and, dealing with business relationships, it's starting to happen more effectively. I've been putting myself in those situations enough to where I'm seeing what works, what doesn't work. But just like anything else, you live and you learn every step of the way. It's not something that will come like that. You just got to try to get better every time.
And it's scary. Don't get me wrong, because if I were to hire someone here, I would want to pay him a living wage.
Exactly.
So is that going to add $4,000 or $5,000 to what I need to make every month?
Right.
And it's just that's the reality. And so you just got to do it. It's scary, but if you need to pay them $5,000 a month, that means they need to be making minimum 10,000, right? Because you want to double that or triple it.
Well, I would say too, you could maybe look into interns or something like that. Well, hey, we're running towards the end of the podcast here. How can people reach out to you and inquire about your services?
Yeah, so easiest way to reach out to me is go to Instagram and follow Concepts by Shane.
Okay.
I post a lot of my projects there, and then shoot me an email. It's designershanecurry@gmail.com, and or go to the website. And so, being an entrepreneur, I'm building out this website, and so the new brand is Studio 1904.
Studio 1904. What's
Studio
1904?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So 1904, being from San Diego, is S is the 19th letter of the alphabet, and D is the 4th. So it's Studio ST. So I think it kind of has a little ring to it.
Studio1904.com.
Yep.
I like it.
So Studio1904.com. I have a cool video up there on one of my first projects that I did over there in Mission Hills. And then, shoot me an email.
Awesome. Well, we'll put your info in the show notes. And again, appreciate you coming on, Shane. Lots of nuggets. And I'm sure we'll have you on again in the podcast down the line.
Sweet. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
I grew up down the street, went to Point Loma High School. And then parents got divorced, and I moved down to Chula Vista and lived with my mom down there for a little bit. Went to Design Studio San Diego, and so I'm familiar with the area. Was that right down the street? Design Studio San Diego? No, that's in Miramar. Oh, okay. Yeah, Miramar. So I actually went to interior design school. Oh, okay. Yeah, went to interior. Oh, that's why your graphics look so sexy. Thank you. Went to interior design school. Learned some interior design for 4 years, and then after the degree, I went to work for an architect for 4 years, and that's where I learned the ropes. So mostly San Diego, right? Or did you kind of just learn how to read all building code in general? Mostly San Diego. So I know the municipal code, San Diego municipal code, like the back of my hand. And that's kind of the bread and butter. But there's a bunch of different codes, right? So there's Title 24, which is a technical term. Title 24 is a technical term for all of the building codes in California. So there's a California building code, right? Those are the big boys. That's like this type of building and any type of multifamily and stuff like that. And then there's the California residential code, which we'll get into in the presentation. I popped 2 Benadryl going over to Japan, and we got a super economical flight called Zip Air. Oh, really? Damn. They didn't serve any food. No, like, drinks or anything. Yeah, so you have to bring your own food. For like 12 hours? Yeah. What? No entertainment. Jesus. No TV on the screen. But it was like $600. Not round trip, just there. And it wasn't even that cheap. Oh, yeah. But I took 2 Benadryl because I was just like, screw this, I'm passing out. Yeah. And Michelle would be like talking to me, and I'd be like going in and out. Those things hit me hard. But anyways, I hate flying too. But I'm like pretty good with flying when they serve me wine and drinks and stuff. But yeah, now it's a little less fun because I used to watch videos and stuff. Now it's just full entertainment to this little thing that wants to run around, but like can't really hit the plane. Well, he'll start using the iPad soon or something. We're trying to really stay away from that too, but we have books and stuff. So like, dude, he loves it. It's so funny. He'll be like losing it in the corner, and then I'll just whip out like a book and I'll just start reading it to myself. Like he won't want to come over, and then I start reading it, and he's just like, oh. Then he comes and just sits on my lap, and then like, oh, like it's really cool. Yeah. Honestly, it's like so many little like milestones, and he's like so interactive now. Yeah. Versus it used to be like at the start for the first like 8 months to a year. It's like, first like 8 months really, it's just one way. Yeah. And there's no whole lot of like feedback or response to what you're doing. It's just like you're just trying things, and it's just taking it or leaving it. But like after a while, I was like, now he's like playing with me. He's like hiding and seeing. Like he comes and just like I'm like sitting on the couch. He jumps on my back and like wants to like get carried around. So it's like, dude, that's pretty awesome, man. How old are you? 30. Okay. Oh shit, you're young, dude. I'm 29. No, I'm gonna be 30 in September. Yeah, dude, that's cool. Michelle and I, we're getting married actually in Tuscany next year. Dude, that's so awesome. You got married overseas, right? Yeah, I got married in Italy too. Oh, really? Yeah. Dolomites. Northern Italy, like north of Milan, almost the Austrian border. Nice. Beautiful. Next to the Alps. In fact, if you guys want, are you guys doing a honeymoon immediately after? Or? Not sure. Just we gotta see where the cash is at. Well, I got some places, dude. Honestly, it's pretty cheap out there, but I got some places I'll refer you. I mean, just even I would say the north. You're going in the summer. We're going in October. October. Oh, that's when we went. It was like
end of September, and it starts to get a little colder. But man, those mountains are so beautiful, man.
Nice.
I like highly recommend. You could just go stay at one of those places for like 2 nights, and like they're relatively cheap for what they are. You have like full everything included. It's like saunas and like,
dude.
You're just looking at these jagged mountain tops. It's so cool.
Yeah, I've been following you for a while, and I remember seeing that. It looked fun.
It's really awesome, man.
We so we're gonna do it in Tuscany, and I'll make this short because we gotta talk. But we're doing Tuscany, and we're gonna rent out a castle, dude. So you can rent out a castle.
I saw, we were looking at some of those, but yeah.
So 3 days, all inclusive. Everyone stays there. We're gonna have like 60 people there.
Yeah.
We've got 60 confirmed.
That's epic.
Yeah, so 60 people are flying out to Italy. We're gonna rent out this castle, have a full 3-day thing. You have your private chef. Everyone's staying there, accommodations. There's like a bunch of stuff to do. You can like food making, and it's just gonna be epic.
Yeah,
I'm super
and it's like
excited.
for the same price as like an afternoon here.
Well, that's the thing. It's like 30 grand. We've been getting quotes back, and you can easily spend 60 grand here.
Yeah, it's especially for like 60 to 100 people. That's why we were looking at it, and we're like, it was during COVID, so it was a little different too. But we were like, we spent like 15 grand on like one of the coolest weddings like we could have ever dreamed of.
Right.
And it was perfect for us. We didn't have a whole lot of people there, or it was just us actually. There's no one there.
Oh, really?
But everything was so much cheaper when we were looking in Europe, and the experience is so much like cooler. It's more than just like an afternoon at some like polished up place here in SoCal. It's like a real different experience in the castle, you know, with the chef and everything. And people have 3 days, not just one afternoon, to really like mingle and bond like their families together. So that's really cool.
It's gonna be epic. I'm super excited. But that's October 2025.
Awesome, dude. Well, congrats on that. That's really exciting.
Thank you.